Hi, Terry here from Stamping Magic. Welcome back to my channel. Today's project is another very pretty floral card. I've used the Pansy Patch stamp set together with the coordinating pansy dies, and I've also used some of the paper from the Pansy Petals Designer Series paper pack. So, let's get started. These are all the measurements you need for all the elements required to create this project. So if you're interested in reproducing it, take a screenshot so you can refer to it later. My card base is in Polished Pink, which is one of our new in colours. Now this is half a standard sheet of card, scored in the middle and folded to create a side opening portrait card. I don't generally create side opening cards, but because of the design, this lends itself to a side opening more than a tentfold card. Now I'm going to die cut the right hand edge of this card base using a border die. The border die I'm going to use comes from the Scalloped Contours die set, and it's this beautiful large scalloped die. Now I'm going to position this onto the right hand side of my card base, and I'm using my grid paper to help me line it up. I'm just positioning the die down about a centimetre, which is about 3/8 of an inch, on each side, and I want to make sure that the scallops are centered within the length of my card base. If you're using 8.5 by 11 inch cards, you'll have more die overhanging on each side because your standard cards are shorter than A4 users. Now I'm going to firmly secure this die with some washi tape, and I'm sticking the washi tape to the edge that will be cut off. Don't stick it to your card base, just in case the card base tears when you remove the washi. Now I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine, but I'm only going to run up to the back end of the die, and then I'm going to run it back out. I'm not going to run all the cardstock through, because marks on your plates can transfer to the cardstock, and I don't want that. Then once I've done it, I can remove the die, and I can reuse my washi tape another time. And this is the edge that it gives you. So a beautiful scalloped, but it's got a dotty border all the way along that edge. You could leave your card base plain, but I'm going to emboss mine. I think it adds a lot to the card. Now the embossing folder I'm using is the Parisian Flourish 3D folder. Now I'm only going to emboss that front part of my card base. I'm going to stop at the fold line. So to do this, I'm going to line the fold line up at the edge of the embossing on the folder, not the edge of the folder, because then you'd get a gap, but the edge of the embossing that you can see through. And it's quite clear where this is. So just line that edge up with the fold on your card base, close your folder, and then run it through your die cut and emboss machine. I also centered the pattern on the folder with the length of the cardstock that I was embossing. You want the pattern to be centered. Now when you remove it from the folder, you want to burnish that fold line again, but do it with the back side up, so you're not pressing out that beautiful embossing, and just do it gently. And that's your card base complete. Now you can still see the dotty edge on the scallops, which is really nice. It sort of finishes off that edge. And as you can see, I've centered my pattern so it looks symmetrical between the top and the bottom. I've gone ahead and die cut two basic white mats One is for the front of my card and one will go inside the card for the message. And again, I've used the Scalloped Contour dies for this, and it's the middle one, so 3 sizes up or 3 sizes down. Here is the Pansy Patch stamp set, and today I'm just using the little happy birthday sentiment, but you've got a good choice of sentiments to choose from. If you have a look at the images on the front cover, you can see that Stampin' Up have placed them in such a way that you know which images go together. This is a 2-step stamp set, which means there are multiple stamps that make up one full image. So for this large pansy, there are 4 stamps that make up the full image. For the small pansy, there are 3. For the little bud, there's also 3. Now this tiny image I use to go in the middle of the smaller pansy. It's a bit too small for the larger pansy, which is why I die cut a centre for that. The 2 stem pieces on the end we won't be using today. Now the leaves each have 2 stamps that make up their full images. I'll be using polished pink ink today, together with soft succulent. Now these are 2 of our newest ink colours, and then I'll also be using a little bit of bumblebee ink, and this is one of our older ink colour set. I'm going to first stamp the larger pansies. Now I'm going to start with the more detailed image, and I'm doing full strength ink for this. So I'll stamp it twice using the polished pink, and then I'm going to stamp the more blocked image over the top, and as you can see I inked up my stamp and then stamped it off onto scratch paper first, and this will give a lighter tone. Now for the middle section, I'm also going to stamp this off before using it, and again this will give that lighter tone. And finally the centre section will be stamped using full strength ink. I only need 1 of the smaller pansies, and again I'm starting with the detail stamp and using full strength ink. The more block image will be stamped off, and then I'll over stamp using it. And then finally that middle section will be at full strength ink. Now I'm going to stamp the centre directly onto this image, and that's using bumblebee ink. I'm going to stamp 1 of each of the different leaf shapes, so starting with full strength ink and the more detailed stamp, and then the more block stamp will be stamped off first before using to give that lighter tone. The stem for the bud will be in soft succulent. The more detailed image will again be full strength polished pink, and then the blocked image will be stamped off before over stamping the detail. The sentiment is going to be stamped on one of the die cut basic white panels, and I'm using soft succulent ink. All of the stamped images can be die cut, and I'm using the pansy dies for this. Now I've split my pansy dies between 2 magnetic sheets. On one I've got all the outline dies for the stamped images, and on the other I've got all the dies that make up the full die cut flowers, so I can see immediately which dies I need for what. Now I've actually used the little triple die to die cut my 2 centerpieces for the larger pansies, but this would normally belong to the other sheet. The die itself is really too big to die cut the center stamped image. You'd have a lot of white space around it if you did that, and I don't think that would look too good. So these are the dies I'm going to use. So we've got the large pansy, the smaller pansy, the little bud, the stem for the bud, and then the 2 leaves. Now to put the card together. So I have my polished pink card base, I have my sentiment panel for the front of the card, and I'm going to mat this onto a soft succulent layer. For inside the card, I've got my Pansy Petals Designer Series paper, and I've got the other die cut basic white mat. Now when you put the Designer Series paper inside, before you glue it in place, just check that your card will close properly. You may need to trim off a tiny slither on that back edge. And then we've got all my stamped pieces. Now I've added dimensionals onto one of the larger pansies, the smaller pansy, and the 2 centre pieces. And there are also dimensionals on the front soft succulent mat. And that's it, that's my card complete. I love these new ink colours, I think they're so pretty. This first one used fresh freesia as the main colour. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Bye for now.